So I just want to make a quick video on how to change your membrane in your stainless steel housing that's in the new 4000, either vent to fill or push to fill, either one. Now your stainless steel housing, your RO membrane might be mounted on the left side, it might be mounted on the right side, but either way, essentially what I'm going to show you is how you're going to change the membrane, how you're going to disconnect it, dismount it from the machine and put it back up. Okay, very first thing we want to do is disconnect our tubing. I like to start at the top, because once you disconnect your tubing on the bottom, water is going to start dumping into your machine, which is fine. That's just going to happen. There's really no way to avoid that. So there'll have to be you have to prepare for some cleanup on the inside of your cabinet. So a wet vac would be pretty smart to have with you. But the first thing to do, let's go ahead and disconnect our tube from the top. And I like to use a flathead to pry open this quick release here. And what I like to do is just get underneath it and kind of push it up on both sides. You can kind of put it in and twist it up just to give you a start, because it's hard to get your hands on it. It's hard to get anything on it. But if you can kind of get it started like that, it'll just kind of pop up. Once you push, you just got to push that collar up like that. Just keep working the sides like that. And that's essentially how you're going to disconnect the bottom tubing as well. But you can disconnect the bottom tubing. You can either disconnect your tube from the elbow, or you can disconnect the elbow from the stem fitting. I'm going to disconnect the elbow on this one, but whatever seems easiest for you, that's what I would do if I was you. I'm just going to go ahead and pry these down the same way. Once I can get my fingers on there, you can see that there's going to be water coming out of that. It's just going to empty out from this. Honestly, I would say let it dump out. If you want to put a bucket underneath and catch it, that's fine, but a wet vac will clean it up. But I say it's a good idea to let that water drain out so this isn't so heavy and you don't drop it and bust your fittings whenever you're taking your housing off of the off of the clamps, mounting clamps. So that's that. You can also put a check valve on the end, and it'll keep it from the water from coming out. But I would say to lighten your load, let the water out. And then once those are disconnected, we want to disconnect or unscrew these mounting screws. And you can use a flathead screwdriver, but it's gonna be pretty tough to get that all the way out. You can also use a 3/8 bit to unscrew them, and that's what I'm going to use. And disconnect the bottom one first, and they just unscrew like that, and then the whole clamp can be removed like that. And you can see it has a little hook, and it just hooks on the back side, and then the front side screws in. Okay, so now I want to be careful as I'm taking this off. I don't want this to fall and bust my fittings on the bottom. Okay, that's one thing we want to protect. Otherwise, you're gonna have to replace your fittings. So for me to do this, I'm gonna go ahead and unscrew this while I hold this up with my right hand. You can see it slid down. Now it's out. That's okay, because I'm just going to remove this completely. I can get both hands on it. And now my housing is out. So now I'm just going to take it over to the table. Okay, now this is the top side. The top side will have a plug in the center of the cap, and it'll have a stem for your incoming water. And this is the only side that we're going to remove. We're going to leave the bottom on, okay? Because when we insert the new membrane, we want to insert it from the top so that the seal sets properly. So these here are 1/2 inch, And so I like to use a crescent wrench, and if you have a ratchet, it can make things a lot easier, a lot more quick. So I'm just gonna sometimes you'll need your crescent to stabilize this, so it'll come off. But it's coming off pretty easy. And you're going to want to take one side off all the way. So you got two ends of your clamps here. And take this one off all the way. And then I'm just going to have to loosen this one up enough where I can just remove the clamp like so. And then this should be in there pretty good. You're probably not going to be able to pull it out. That's when your flathead is going to come in handy here to just wedge inside there and start to pry it out a little bit. You can also see there's a little notch in there to help you out if you couldn't get it in directly in between the cap and the stainless steel housing. I'm just twisting it out like that. Then once it gets started, you can see the O-rings are starting to come out. There's 2 O-rings in there. Just kind of work my way around until I can get it out with my hand. Okay, so you got 2 O-rings. You want to make sure you have both those O-rings. Silicone grease on those. Typically you want to grease them up each time that you change the membrane. Here's the membrane, here's the stem. And so what I would do is, and this is going to probably release a little bit more water, but you want to just tap it down and it'll drop. And you see this seal here, it was holding that water in, and that's what it's supposed to do. So I want to remove my old membrane, and then I'm gonna pretend this is the new membrane. And it's super important that you insert the new membrane into the top of the housing, and so your seal, your O-ring needs to be at the top. So you want to put this at the bottom because there's no seal. So that has to go in first. You want to grease this seal up with silicone grease. You want to grease your stems up and slide that in, and then put your cap back on. There's also 2 O-rings inside here. Sometimes those need replaced, but definitely you want to re-grease those up with silicone grease each time you change your RO. This will go on like that. Pushes in fairly easy. You just take your clamp and set it again. Like so. Wrench, my crescent to stabilize it, so I can tighten it with the crescent and with the ratchet. Tighten it down about as tight as we can. Typically you'll get both ends to touch on both sides. And again, that's your top. So your bottom has a fitting on the center and the side. Your top has a plug in the center and a fitting for the incoming water on the top. Okay. So you'll want to set this in here. And you can kind of rest that because it has the lip. You can kind of rest it to get your mounting clamp started. And I'm just going to hook it on the back side. You can see how my screw's set. It's already started in there. I kind of hold it and stabilize it. Just going to get it started. Not clamp it down all the way because I want to slide this up a bit because I want it set just up above. This fitting's going to squeeze right on there. That looks about right. I like that, so I'm going to go ahead and tighten this down. And it holds it pretty good. And then it's a little bit easier to do your second one. Where did my screw go? Screw fell here. And then this should be color coded, okay? Your blue line or whatever line is running to your tank needs to go back to the middle because that's the good water. And then your wastewater that goes to the drain needs to go on the side because that's your rejection. And then you just want to clean up the water that spilled out, and that's it.